Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Reviews Stuff, and today I am reviewing another movie. I am reviewing The Christmas Chronicles, starring Kurt Russell, and it is available on Netflix. And I didn't realize until I was looking in the camera right now that I really do look a lot like Santa Claus. In fact, at 46 years old, I could probably play a pretty good Santa Claus. And you see, the Christmas tree is finally up after many, many moons of talking about it on my vlog. I woke up today and my husband had put up the Christmas tree and decorated it, which was so sweet and so Christmassy. So I hope you guys are enjoying Christmas Eve so far, if you celebrate Christmas Eve. I wasn't going to make this video today because it's so late in the holiday season, and I thought, who's going to watch this? Maybe next year somebody will watch it. But I was thinking back to when I was growing up as a kid, and on Christmas Eve, they would always play a Christmas movie on TV. And I don't remember who hosted it, but it would always be like this local newscaster, and he would sit in front of the fireplace in a chair, very similar to this, and he would talk about the movie, whether it was White Christmas or, you know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the cartoon, one of those, you know, movies back in the day, and we would watch it. My cousin and I, we would watch it as he was like sitting in front of the fireplace. And so every, you know, Miracle on 34th Street, I think was one of them. And so during each like commercial break, they would go back to him sitting in front of the fireplace. And I was kind of thinking about that today, and I was like, you know what? I think that's going to be a tradition that I'm going to do on this channel going forward, is that every Christmas Eve, I'm going to review a Christmas movie, like one of my favorites. So this year, my favorite Christmas movie, and I've watched a lot. I started off kind of not watching a ton. Last year, I watched a ton of Christmas movies. This year, I think I ended up watching 5 or 6. My all-time favorite Christmas movie of life is Smoky Mountain Christmas with Dolly Parton. And it is on YouTube, so you can go watch the whole thing on YouTube. I watched it the other night and started watching it again. I almost watched it twice in a row. It's so fantastic, so Christmassy. So anyway, but today is about my favorite Christmas movie of 2018, and that is easily The Christmas Chronicles starring Kurt Russell. So let me read you a little synopsis of what this is about, and I will throw up the movie poster right there. The movie, Christmas Chronicles, siblings Kate and Teddy Pierce hatch a scheme to capture Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. When the plan goes awry, the kids join forces with a somewhat jolly Saint Nick and his loyal elves to save the holiday before it's too late. And it's interesting that they use the word somewhat jolly Saint Nick, because I actually thought at the beginning of the movie he was rather surly. I will say this, having watched the whole movie, I wasn't convinced going into this that Kurt Russell was going, and I'm going to spoil this at the end. At the very end, and I will give you a spoiler warning, but I cannot talk about this movie without talking about one thing. So if you haven't seen the movie, I will tell you when I'm going to talk about it, and you can stop the video. So the rest of this will not be a spoiler video. I wasn't convinced going into this that I would love Kurt Russell as Santa Claus, but he was fantastic. I mean, he looked so authentic. He looked so believable in this role. And it was really funny. I think the guy that directed it is the same guy that directed Angry Birds, which is interesting if you've seen it, because the elves are very similar to the Angry Birds look. And the elves make up a lot of what this movie is about, and they're very cute in the movie. So anyway, but I wasn't convinced, and what I love about this movie is they kind of reinvent, I mean, you cannot reinvent the idea of Santa Claus, but to some degree they do. And they come up with all of these things that like are new concepts of Santa Claus that you've never seen in a movie before, that we've never heard of before, and it's kind of like really creative genius, right? The one thing that I really, really liked, but at the same time it almost kind of seemed overboard, and I actually looked up some reviews to see if I was, you know, I was like, I cannot be the only person that thought this, is that the similarities between The Christmas Chronicles and Adventures in Babysitting, which is one of my all-time favorite movies of life, are, I mean, they're so similar. And in fact, the majority of the movie takes place in Chicago, and so does Adventures in Babysitting. And when I Googled and I looked up reviews, there were many, many reviews of people saying that it was very, very similar to Adventures in Babysitting. And it was kind of like, they said it was like Christmas meets Adventures in Babysitting, which is exactly what it is. In fact, there's even a singing scene in this movie that is almost identical to the scene in Adventures in Babysitting, when the kids go through that bar and the guy's like, nobody leaves until somebody sings the blues. It's almost identical to that. There were so many similarities with it that it was interesting to me, because it had to have been meant that way. But I wondered why Adventures in Babysitting, which I don't have a problem with. I love that movie. And I love adventure movies that have to do with blizzards or Christmas or any of that kind of stuff during the holiday season. So I was excited because listen, I was getting ready to have to watch Christmas at Willow Creek or whatever, which is like 30 years old with John Schneider from Dukes of Hazzard. Do you guys remember this movie back in the day? I did love the Dukes of Hazzard though. But anyway, so I was kind of like, you know, okay, what is this about? But it's kind of, to be honest with you, at some points a little bit overkill on the Adventures in Babysitting point. Like, there's so many similarities. Even some of the parts, like the music, sounds kind of similar as like the way that they're playing it out in that scene, if that makes sense. It's done super well. I will tell you this: if you're a 46-year-old or 50-year-old and you don't believe in Santa Claus anymore, this is the movie to watch that will convince you that there is still Santa Claus out there. And one of the things that I loved about this is that the message goes so much deeper than just Santa Claus. The message goes, you know, into believing in yourself, and it talks about grief. And I mean, in all of these Christmas movies, did y'all remember that one movie back in the day? It was so depressing with that Mary Steenburgen, I think was her name. And it was called One Magic Christmas, and like the dad gets killed. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The beginning and end of that movie was so depressing. I don't care. Like, you couldn't even watch that movie without like just sitting there like sob a bucket. I don't understand why we always have to make these horribly, horribly sad Christmas movies. And that's one of the things that I loved about this movie was, even though it talked a little bit about grief, at the beginning of the movie, and this isn't going to ruin it for you, but at the beginning of the movie, the father passes away. Now, I will tell you what is so interesting about this movie, okay, is that Kurt Russell plays Santa Claus, right? But Goldie Hawn's son plays the father who passes away. So like there's this familial connection through the whole movie, which is fantastic. And I kind of like the undercurrents of like all of this like Hollywood meets Christmas in this thing. The brother and sister that play the roles in this movie are fantastic. The little girl, now I hope they're not typecasted forever into Christmas movies, because when I was watching Smoky Mountain Christmas, I had forgotten this, I don't know why, but the girl and the boy that are like the two oldest siblings in there, they were also like love interests in this movie with John Denver, where they were in this Christmas town, I don't remember, called A Christmas Hope or something like that. Some of these people that do Christmas movies, they end up doing Christmas movies for life. Like, that's all they do. Like, forever, I've been listening to Channel 70 on Sirius Radio since before Thanksgiving, honestly. I've been listening to all this Christmas music. And it's hosted by, Candace Cameron, but I think she was on Full House back in the day, which I guess now she's just doing the Hallmark Christmas movies. Lacey Chabert, from back in the day, Party of Five, and wasn't she in Mean Girls too? Now her favorite thing in the entire world is just to sit around in pajamas all day long with her family. That's what she said. I don't believe it, okay? I don't believe that for 1 minute. But anyway, she's the queen of the Hallmark movies now. And then Debbie Gibson, I was like, when that came up and she was talking, I was like, out of the blue, Debbie Gibson, what happened to her? So anyway, there are all these Christmas movies, right, that are out there on Lifetime and Hallmark. You're saturated with it. So it's interesting that this is the one that rises above. But I think that the reason for that is that it really kind of reiterates this idea of magic and Santa Claus and believing again and stuff like that. And, I was telling my best friend, I was saying to her, this is a movie that you would want to watch if you're starting to doubt or you're starting to question whether or not Santa Claus really exists. This is the movie that you want to watch, because it will make you believe all over again in a way that you hadn't before. And it's done well. The special effects are fantastic, first of all. I'm just blown away by all these Netflix movies that are being put out, okay? First Dumpling, then Bird Box, and Christmas Chronicles. I'm just blown away. Like, the special effects in this movie are fantastic. The concepts, the creativity that comes out of this movie is just unbelievable. It is so beautifully shot. It is so beautifully done. The way that he, they explain that he goes from house to house to house to house is so, it's just genius. And there's, technology that they work into the movie that is absolutely fantastic as well. Okay, now this is the spoiler part, so if you haven't watched the movie and it won't ruin it for you unless you're a real lover of, Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. So this is the spoiler part, so if you don't want to see the spoiler, I love you, thank you for watching the video, and I will see you later. Have a wonderful Christmas. Okay, spoiler. In the last 5 minutes of the movie, Santa Claus is done delivering the presents, and he goes back to the North Pole, and he's sitting there in a chair, and all this kind of stuff, and Mrs. Claus enters the room. I literally balled up and started, crying my eyes out when this happened, because Mrs. Claus is Goldie Hawn, who's been with Kurt Russell forever, and to me, it just was this Hollywood moment where Hollywood and Christmas overlapped. And, for those of us that love the movie Overboard from back in the day, and it's my mother-in-law's favorite movie of life. She loves Mamma Mia, and she loves Overboard. And she had watched this. She was like probably the first person that watched Christmas Chronicles. And so anyway, Alex said something about it being with Kurt Russell, and he thought it was like an older movie or whatever. And so when I watched it, at the very end, Goldie Hawn is Mrs. Claus, and she's so fantastic, and they play off at each other so well, and it just made me so happy watching it. I was like, this is so cool that they, you know, like wove all of this different things in there. And if you're a lover of like that whole kind of like old Hollywood storyline of Overboard and whatever, you know, those cheesy 90s, 80s movies, to see that at the very end of this movie, I literally got tears in my eyes. I was like, this is so cool that they did this. You know, to have her as the cameo, they didn't have to do that. You know, I mean, it could have just been anybody playing Mrs. Claus. It was so cool. It was literally the icing on the cake for me that made this movie so fantastic. As a Christmas, okay, as just a movie, I would probably give this movie, I don't know, like a 4 out of 5. But as a Christmas movie, I would definitely give it like a 4.8 out of 5. I mean, it was way up there. It'll be one of my Christmas favorites for life. My favorite Christmas movies, other than Smoky Mountain Christmas right now, I love Polar Express, and I love the Pixar version with Jim Carrey of A Christmas Carol, and those are some of my favorite movies. So this will easily be at the top of the list from now on. And like I said, if you like Adventures in Babysitting, you will definitely love The Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic Christmas Eve, a fantastic Christmas, a fantastic, I don't know, February 2nd if you're watching this video then. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season, and I hope you guys are spending it with your family and loved ones. If not, watch The Christmas Chronicles. It will make you very, very merry. I love you guys, and I will see you later. Bye.